welcome to Tadivari, which is the very small version of Karlovy Vary International Festival here. Thank you for having us. You're in Paris, as you said before?
Yes, right, in France, yeah, right, Paris.
I have to say, I was like really looking forward to see Kubrick by Kubrick, because like I'm not the Kubrick geek, I would say, but I love Shining, for example, and a lot of others of his movies. So I was really curious about how you're gonna describe the person, and there was some moments I was really like, okay, this point of view I wasn't expecting. Yeah. Could you maybe describe like the process of making the movie? Because you had to get in touch with Michel Simon, who made the interviews with Kubrick. So how did it work?
Well, I had, making another Kubrick documentary. There's been a lot of Kubrick films before, so the objective of this one was just, I didn't want it to repeat or to redo something that has already been done. So the idea was really first to find, an original idea, and something that hasn't been done. That is to say, Kubrick's viewpoint. I mean, we never had any documentary until now with Kubrick really talking about his art and about his viewpoint on, I would say, human being. So the way we did it was, it's a 2.5 year work process, basically. We really wanted to do it properly. So of course we had to go. We went to see Michel Simon, who made the interviews. Since he is French, it was easier for us, of course, and he really immediately agreed and granted us, to give us the interviews. He audio taped with Stanley Kubrick, 4 interviews to say. And then we went to see the Kubrick Trust, which is based in London, because we wanted to ask for the approbation also of his family, and because they own his image, his rights. So, we had to do that. I know that other Kubrick films, Kubrick documentaries, they didn't do it that way. They prefer to do it, by themselves without asking, because they didn't want it to encounter issues or budget issues or whatever. But our option really was the only way to do that film. Being secure with the Michel Simon footage, and also with the Kubrick Trust and his family. I really wanted to get approbation for that. So, it was tremendous work. So that was it. That's for the idea, of making a new film on Kubrick. And then I guess you have other questions, of course.
Yeah, I do. I'm thinking, just like, wasn't it a little bit limiting to work within these limits of the interviews and the Kubrick's own thoughts?
Yes, it was, but that's the goal, actually. It's limited, but I had to build a narrative and a story upon these interviews. So I had to find a way to make Kubrick by Kubrick happen. And of course, yes, he doesn't talk about his very early movies or about other things that some people say, oh, he doesn't talk about, or they don't talk about Lolita in that film, or about the first films of Kubrick, or Eyes Wide Shut. He died prior Eyes Wide Shut, so coming out of theaters. So, but he didn't talk about this with Michel Simon. So I had to respect that and find a way, to accommodate with that material. But we had a lot. It's a 73 minutes film, but I had to make a lot of choices, and I had to find a narrative, comprehensible narrative with these archives, and also with other kind of archives, which would help understand what was going on in that film. But basically, I really wanted to be respectful about Mr. Kubrick's thoughts. So that was, yes, it was tough, but it's a big chance to do that.
Kubrick, he was closed. He didn't talk about his films much, and I was still thinking when I was listening to this conversation between Michel Simon and Kubrick, what was the thing that made Kubrick open up to Michel Simon?
Michel Simon was one of the French critics at the time who really, really saw in Kubrick a genius, I would say. He really liked Kubrick. He was passionate by his films. He wrote about his films also prior their first interview. And Kubrick didn't like to talk to the press or talk about his movies or analyze his movies or himself. But he gave few interviews, audio taped always, Well, actually there were audio tape, but not in the way, it was just for helping the transcription afterwards of the newspaper, either newspapers or the book for Michel Simon, because Michel Simon audio taped Kubrick to transcript them, into his book. So that footage wasn't meant to be heard one day, but still, Kubrick was very confident. He trusted Michel Simon. He saw in Michel Simon, was very young at the time, really, a passionate man, of the art of cinema, and he knew very well Kubrick. I mean, his art, everything. So they just had these conversations. They are not really interviews, I would say. I would say they are kind of conversations with Kubrick. He was very interested in all of aspects of life, not also in cinema. And they talked a lot about everything, really, basically. So they rather quickly they became, I wouldn't say close, but there was a kind of respect. They respected each other, and they called each other also sometimes. I have an anecdote. I think that Michel Simon told that, when Full Metal Jacket was coming out on theaters in France, he called Michel Simon and he asked him where were the posters of the films on the Champs-Élysées. Could people see it very well? So that kind of thing. So basically, yeah, it's from the moment that you got Kubrick's trust, it was okay. So, but still, he didn't like to analyze himself. You can sense he tries to sometimes to avoid something, to avoid really answering the question. But I think that a lot of filmmakers are like this. So, it's difficult. They don't do movies, to analyze afterwards their own work. It's a bit weird, actually. So
yeah, but I really appreciated how you build up the description of Kubrick, because it wasn't the first part, but at the, let's say, first half, they were talking about the number of reshoots and how he was always looking for the perfect one, both sound and image and so on. And then suddenly there was this quote that he was never prepared for the shooting. He came to the stage and was like, okay, what are we doing? And that was really, it was surprising at the first. I was really surprised to hear that, but in few seconds it just clicked together. That he really he was shooting what he saw, not what he wanted to see.
Absolutely. And also he from the moment that he also trusted, it's all about trust. That's you're quoting, I think, Malcolm McDowell. He says that he wasn't never prepared. He did a lot of preparation, but he wanted, he had a very light crew. People said, Kubrick, he takes 2 years to shoot a movie, maybe, but he had twice or 3 times less the amount of crew and material than a casual film. So he could allow himself to do that. So he wanted to take his time, and yes, for sure, from the moment that he trusted the actors, he was very well open, for suggestions, and he liked to improvise. And it doesn't. It has nothing to do with preparing or not preparing, or doing storyboard, or choosing the framing, or the lenses, or whatever. He knew that, but yeah, and he must accommodate himself. He had a lot of time. That's why I think he took a lot of time to work with actors with all these takes. So, but yeah, it's very surprising. It's very surprising. But I think when you listen to Stanley Kubrick, you listen to a kind of a humble man. He was very humble. He was probably shy and humble. He wasn't sure about anything. I mean, he wasn't sure about what he was. He was sure about the story he wanted to tell and the way he wanted to tell it, but he wasn't sure about the reception, I would say, of his films. And nobody can.
Yeah. It was like, I know a lot of his films, but I probably never saw the lineup of all of his movies. And he mentioned that in one of the interviews, like he's describing the actual society, the fears of the society, or something like he saw in the moment, like the actual state of the world. I'm really curious, what would he film after the Eyes Wide Shut? Like, what would be the next one?
Well, the next movie after Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no.
If he could continue.
He had. Well, I think you're mentioning Clockwork Orange. When he was mentioning the problem of violence. How can you solve violence? Are you going to use violence to solve violence? That's a very actual problem. Yeah, that's very frightening. I mean, when we listen to him, he was, my God, he was very well aware of the world in which he was living, and he was very conscious about that, and very open to that, and very not pessimistic, but he was realistic, about the human being. So after Eyes Wide Shut, he had a few projects. Actually, he wanted to do AI, artificial intelligence, actually done by Steven Spielberg. He knew, and they were friends also, and he had a few projects. Of course, there was the Napoleon, but the Napoleon really dated from very early on, from, I would say, in the 70s. He did Barry Lyndon because he couldn't do Napoleon. So I don't know. It's difficult because he wasn't planning, of course, to to die after Eyes Wide Shut. He died very early. He wasn't that old. I mean, he was 70. That's young. So yeah. Yeah, one can only suppose, what he would have done. I bet that he would have done a rather different films, as he already did, because he did all kind of different genres. So, but Eyes Wide Shut, was his, I would say, is one of his most personal films. It was very intimate. Very simply done, and personally, I think it's one of his best films. I know that a lot of people don't think so. I know that Michel Simon really is one of his best Kubrick films too. But maybe it's too recent. I mean, it's 20 years ago. It's more than 20 years ago now. But you have to. It's like good wine. You have to let it. It's like good wine. I think a Kubrick film has to mature like good wine, and have to see it every 10 or 20 years, and then you don't see it the same way, and then you don't appreciate it the same way, and a lot of people appreciate him more years after. So I think Eyes Wide Shut will probably have the same perception of it, but
we'll see in 10 years.
I to answer you on the what could have him what could have he done before after Eyes Wide Shut. I really don't know. I like everyone. I heard about his projects, but probably AI, But I'm not even sure. I'm guessing because he was already in production or in pre-production of AI. I think I saw sketches or something. So I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure he was about to do it and then Spielberg did it, or maybe he gave it to Spielberg before Eyes Wide Shut because he took too much time on Eyes Wide Shut. I'm not sure about that. Sorry. So probably science fiction again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. It was a great film. Like, I think not only like Kubrick fans would enjoy that. It was really, I would say it was deep, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the interview.
It's difficult to do a Kubrick film, a Kubrick documentary. Sorry, because you have to. That there are fans there. They know everything, and there are also people who are not either fans or they don't know much about him, and you have to please both audience. So that it's very tough. But again, my goal there was really to respect Kubrick's words, thoughts, and spirit, and that was really it. It wasn't about you're going to learn new stuff on Stanley Kubrick. Of course, people a person who is not fan would learn a lot. But the fans would say, I already knew that. But don't forget, it's Kubrick saying it. It's really the only time that you will have that on screen. So I thank you very much, and I hope that the movie will please everyone. And thank you for having not me, but my movie in the festival.
Next time we will have you too. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.